I've been wanting to make a video about minimalism for a while and talk about minimalism, why I choose to work in a very minimalistic way. And now that I've done a couple of changes to my setup and I've simplified a couple of things and I went even more minimalist than ever, I thought it would be a good time to talk a little bit about minimalism and also to show you my setup, how I use things, and this can also simplify things for those of you who are interested in working with me. You can see what I'm using and how I do things. So first of all, why would I work in a minimalistic way? Well, the easy answer is less is more. Less is really more. Like when it comes to simpler arrangements, you can hear more of the elements that are in the arrangement. The opposite example would be take Phil Spector's wall of sound, just stacks and stacks of guitars and drums on top of each other, and it might sound strong or powerful, but the clarity of that arrangement is missing. And what I find when it comes to working with simpler arrangements that have less instruments on them, everything has its space, everything is very, very clear, and nothing is really fighting with each other. Everything is talking with each other in a very organic way. So this is one reason why I go for minimalism. A second reason is when you are working with less things, it's easier to make a decision. If you're a producer or a musician that is working with sample libraries, you know what I mean. If you need to choose a string sound and you have 1,000 string sounds, how do you choose the right string, or how to use the right synth preset if you have 1,000 presets? It makes things very, very difficult. So that's another reason. And a third reason is I've always dreamed of being not just a music producer, but a mobile music producer. I would like to actually travel as much as possible and to other countries and to just meet amazing singer-songwriters, bring my gear and do the work that I can do, which means arranging and playing synthesizers and guitars and bass with as much comfort as possible. So in order to do that, I needed to decide to have certain things and to give up on things that I don't use that much, to really focus on the necessities. So this is the reason why I think minimalism works. It also allows me to work very, very fast. So it saves me time, which means it saves you money. And here's pretty much the way my studio works. So I'll start from the recording setup. So I'm using Pro Tools. I'm on version Pro Tools 2019. I recently switched to a Mac Mini, a brand new one. It's super strong. I don't think I'll ever need a computer stronger than this. I'm running a Universal Audio Apollo Twin X. Lovely interface, very high quality. Everything when it comes to my keyboards or my guitars or my bass, they pass through the Sansom PSA. It's a wonderful analog preamp, guitar preamp. It's a good amp simulator that simulates Fender amps and Marshall amps and Voxes, and like I love passing electric piano through this, or bass or guitar. Sometimes I even pass synthesizers through this. And I also have a little side effect chain that goes through this. So if I need something to be a bit more interesting, I'm going to move the camera a bit so you can see what I'm talking about. Right here, if you can see these, I have an analog spring reverb here. I have a Moog delay, an analog delay, and a Moog analog chorus, which can be super simple and subtle to very, very extreme and powerful, depending on the depth of the LFO that I use. So like these are very strong sounding effects. They have a very, very strong flavor, and I love to use them on all kinds of things. So that's pretty much my input chain when it comes to plugging in guitars and synths and keyboards and whatever. Like it goes through the amp, and then I add some analog effects. I can always also add all kinds of interesting things using the Apollo. It has its own cool things, and I can record the sound of it. So I can just improvise with it and record whatever settings I have. So that's an interesting thing. Most of my strings, electric pianos, keys, any samples, if it's Mellotron, whatever, it comes from my Nord keyboard. This is also a thing that allows me to make decisions very, very fast. So I do not need to open a virtual instrument in Pro Tools and to start to look for presets. I have my favorite sounds here, electric pianos. normal piano right now. Then I also have all kinds of nice mellotron samples like strings, and this keeps going. So anyways, this allows me to choose for the samples that I really like. They are in here. I've used them on most of my productions, and this keyboard has served me well. So this, when it comes to samples, keys, piano, stuff like that, it's coming from the Nord. There isn't a lot of memory on this thing, so like it really makes sure that I keep the sounds that I like the most, and it's not that I just choose whatever. Then when it comes to synthesizers, I have these three things. This is a Waldorf Blofeld. It's a very nice synth. I use it when I need polyphony, when I need to play chords and stuff like that. It's got FM in it too. It's got all kinds of strange magical sounds, and also when I'm working on different productions, when I need to recreate the sound, so it has presets on it, so it's very easy for me to recall a preset and then change it depending to whatever way you want me to do it. And again, it has a ton of presets. It has like 600 presets on this thing, and I have a list on my computer of about 50 of my favorite presets, and those are the ones that I use with the Blofeld, and I modify them depending on the project, but like 50 is more than enough. Then I have the Moog Minitar here. It's a classic sounding synth. It has this classic Moog bass sound, and it's completely analog and free compared to the Blofeld, which is preset based. So I can have a lot of fun with this. When I need to experiment a little bit more, I would go for the Moog. And I also have this Vermona Retroverb Lancet. This is a very interesting effect. It's an filter that has an LFO and a spring reverb. I use it for all kinds of experimental things. If you're listening to my music specifically, it's on everything. Like, I've used this thing in a lot of things. And as you can see, none of my synths have any keyboards, and the reason for that is because I wanted to have as small as possible setup so that I could actually pack these, put them in a suitcase and travel around. So that's pretty much my recording setup, my keys, my synths, my effects. And other than that, I have a couple of guitars that I'm using a lot. I have this Epiphone Wilshire, which is a lovely guitar. It sounds a bit like a Gibson SG. It has this humbucker Gibson sound. Lovely guitar. Second guitar I use a lot is my Fender Telecaster. Again, lovely guitar. Has a single coil sound, of course, so that's why, you know, even as a minimalist, I need to have two different electric guitars, a single coil and a humbucker. So the Fender and the Epiphone, they sound very different. So when I need to have two electric guitars on a track, I always make sure to do one part with this one and the other part with that one. And last but not least, when it comes to the stuff I wanted to show you today, is my lovely bass. This is a Fender Bullet from early 80s. I think it's 81, 82. Wonderful bass. It has this precision sound because it has a pair of humbuckers here. It plays lovely. I use flat wound strings, and yeah, if you're hearing a bass on one of my productions, this is what you're hearing. I don't have 10 basses. So I hope you find this useful, that you understand how I work a little bit better, and thank you for watching.